All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bodybuilding News Network. I'm your host, Saunch. My voice is much better today, so I appreciate all of the thoughts and prayers in the comment sections below. But today, I want to talk about Hadi Choopan versus Brandon Curry at this year's 2021 Mr. Olympia. But before we get into that, I have two questions for you. Guys. What is your go-to supplement brand and why? I'd love to hear what supplement brand is your daily driver, what pre-workout, what protein powder is your favorite brand and why? What do you value more out of a supplement brand? At the end of the day, if you have $30, if you have $50, what is the most important thing to a supplement brand? Is it the quality or is it the price? If you really think about it, what is more important to you, quality or price? But that's it, guys. Let's go ahead and dig into today's topic. And a couple disclaimers. Brandon Curry didn't hit all of the shots that typically we'd like to see in a comparison, all the mandatories, for instance, and same, but different for Hadi Choopan. There was a couple shots that he did not hit, or at least didn't hit traditionally. This is by no means the end all be all of the conversation of Brandon Curry versus Hadi Choopan at this year's 2021 Mr. Olympia in recap. But this is a good starter to the dialogue of what happened this year. But let's dig into it. Let's go ahead and start off, as all good comparisons should, the front double bicep. And we have Hadi Choopan on the right, Brandon Curry on the left. And from this year, Brandon Curry beat out Hadi Choopan again, respectfully, Brandon Curry in second and Hadi Choopan in third. Now, looking at this front double bicep, my eyes immediately go to Hadi Choopan. But let's dissect that. Let's figure out why. Starting from the top, forearms. I feel forearms are very comparable, but there's definitely a density and conditioning piece that Hadi has on his forearms that Brandon Curry does not. But in the same hand, if you like vascularity over conditioning and separation and muscle density, I think that Brandon Curry has more vascularity in the forearms. Moving into the biceps and delts, along with the triceps, so the arms and the delts, I feel like Hadi has a better muscle belly fullness, bicep split, and also bicep insertion point. Although Brandon Curry is very close with the biceps insertion, Hadi Choopan, in some regards, looks like the tricep development might be a little bit better, along with the separation, in my opinion. Moving into the delt category, and we'll probably even flow into the lat and the chest after that. From the front delt, I know Hadi has some controversy behind his rear delts, but we cannot see that in this shot, so I'm not going to talk about it. The front bicep, or the front delt here, it's kind of a wash here, to be honest. I think that Brandon has a little bit more thickness in the front delt. But if we're looking at Hadi's, you can see a slight separation, more density. I would say density. Separation. You can see a little bit of a separation in the lines, but very, very comparable in the front delt. Moving into the chest and lats. Now, with the chest, they're both very comparable, although Hadi's gives me, for some reason, my eyes go to it better. Maybe it's the backdrop, the silhouette. I think that Brandon's shot has a little bit of smoke to it, so it kind of corrupts it just a little bit. But Hadi's chest kind of speaks to me more. In the lats, again, Hadi's, especially with those just shredded serratus interiors, serratus. I think they look a little bit better. And then obviously we can talk about this vacuum shot with the midsection. Just overall, that upper body, I feel like Hadi has a better, more pleasing physique from this front double, especially with the vacuum. You have to reward a good vacuum, especially in the open. And no disrespect to Brandon Curry, he's a Mr. Olympian, but his midsection does look a little bit Dexter Jackson-y, a little bit Dave Palumbo-y. It looks like it's spilling out on the sides. It might just be a structural thing. It might just be how the muscle was built. You know, muscles have density and that affects the midsection, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on. Moving into the quad insertions into the posing trunks and the quads in general, I think that Hadi has more separation, more conditioning, and in some spots more density development. I think that Brandon has, although it's definitely one of his weak points compared to the rest of his physique, I think his legs have made improvements, especially when you look around the groin area coming into the adductors, the inner part of the quads. It looks like he's put on some muscle from last year. And there's a lot of comparison videos out there comparing Brandon Curry's previous to now. And if you guys want, I can do a video about that. Just let me know in the comment sections below. Calves, Hadi Choopan, I think, has the calves. So overall, I think this is a very sturdy and confident win for Hadi Choopan in the front double bicep. Moving into the front lat. Now, this is one of those shots. Brandon didn't really hit a conventional front lat spread in finals or prejudging. In all reality, this is more of a relaxed, maybe even a most muscular. But I feel just off of just looking at it, I think that Hadi Choopan wins this shot as well. Conditioning, separation, presentation. His skin looks a lot fresher, more crisp. And you're going to notice that throughout these shots, as I feel like Hadi has a fresher look to his physique. I don't want to spend too much time on the front lat just because it's such a wash with him not hitting the shot conventionally. But if you guys are interested, this is Brandon Curry from last year, the 2020 Olympia, where he hits a front lat spread. And this actually makes a big difference in the shot. Very, very wide. And this would actually be, a conversation here. But that's last year. It's kind of hard to compare Brandon last year to Hadi this year. So I don't feel like that's fair. As we transition to the side shots, side chest, I mean, again, it just seems like although Brandon looks a little bit more full, like more bubbly, kind of like a Phil Heath vibe, Hadi has a lot more conditioning, a lot more separation. And I feel like that's kind of the tail of the tape here. Do you like the really washed out look of Brandon's legs? There's no separation in the quad. The hamstring drop is pretty much non-existent. It is a darker shot for him. The lighting wasn't as complimentary, in my opinion. I don't know if that's just because, I don't know, guys. Let me know down below. But I thought that this year's lighting was fantastic. So it's really hard to make that conversation about bad lighting. But I have seen comments about it. But overall, on the side chest, I would give this one to Hadi as well. Pretty much a clean sweep so far for Hadi. And neither of them really hit a traditional side tricep in the photos I could get from NPC News Online. So we'll do a wash on the side tri. And we'll actually replace it with the classic Arnold pose. I think it's called a two-thirds turn, quarter turn. And guys, this is kind of a different one. So Brandon hits this one more conventional to an Arnold, and Hadi's is a little bit more Persian-esque, I guess. It's his own variation with the leg back. I prefer Brandon's here because of the structure and how he holds it. But again, kind of like the skin of Hadi is just so pleasing. It just reminds me of, I don't know, it just, my eyes go to Hadi on this. Although, like I said, I do prefer Brandon's way of hitting it. Abs and thighs. Again, Brandon didn't hit this in a conventional shot or at all during prejudging and finals. And you can check the NPC News Online website if you guys don't trust me. But this is actually a shot from last year's, and it actually opens up a conversation here. Brandon looks really, really good last year in his ab and thigh. And you're going to notice that throughout this show that Brandon Curry hit all the conventional shots last year and really was more focused on the posing routine during the posing routine, which is fine. But for us as journalists, commentators, it's a little bit more tough post-production, trying to figure out what exactly happened. But I think Hadi looked amazing this year. His conditioning was spot on. I don't think he could have improved anywhere when we're looking at conditioning. And if we're going to compare Hadi this year to Brandon last year, definitely really apples and oranges here. I think that Brandon looks very, very good in this shot. Midsection, very tiny, not as defined in the ab department, more of a wash. And the chest looks comparably soft compared to Hadi's, but again, kind of a wash because it's really hard to compare someone from last year and someone from this year. Most muscular, this one's kind of interesting. Brandon, this is supposed to be Brandon's most muscular, and Brandon's front double and back double are supposed to be his take-home shots, but they're very comparable to Rami and very comparable to Hadi. And shoot, I mean, the rest of the top five comparable as well. That's why this year was so good. It was so exciting to watch. But if we're looking at this comparison, Hadi versus Brandon in the most muscular, Hadi's doing more of a closed, clasped hands for the most muscular. I think this is a really good shot for Hadi. Really accentuates the midsection, the chest striations, the delts, the traps. Biceps are really peaked well. And then the leg department is just lights out. And shoot, we could even talk about the calves. In more of a non-comparison, Brandon looks really good. An emphasis on the traps and the just massive delts. Legs pretty much a wash except for the teardrops there. The teardrops look really fantastic, and they look more developed than Hadi's in some aspects, but kind of apples and oranges. Do you like the a little bit more development there versus the complete separation striations of Hadi's legs? Kind of a wash here. But if we're being honest, what I like to see, I would prefer Hadi's in this shot. And also Brandon's is just really dark and it's really tough to see it. So I just feel like there's a lot of discrepancies in this video. But it is what it is, guys. I can only work with what I have. As we transition into the back, we're going to have a couple different variations. I noticed that Hadi only had, I believe it's his finals photos. He didn't have his prejudging, whereas Brandon had both. So there's definitely a much wider range of depth and breadth when it comes to Brandon Curry's content and footage on NPC News Online website for this year's Olympia compared to Hadi's. So there is that as well. I always want to point out there's a lot of variables going into these videos that are important to highlight, but they're not the make or break. Moving into the back double as we're here, I really like Hadi. The lighting, the symmetry, the definition and separation coming into the lower back. Although it's a little watery, I feel like the rest of the physique is really, really on point. The glutes look sharper than Brandon's. The whole bottom half looks better than Brandon's, in my opinion. No disrespect, obviously. Now, this is kind of where the delts start to look kind of funny. They don't look comparable. The front delt doesn't. It definitely looks interesting. I'll leave it there. Brandon, although this is one of Brandon's best shots, very, very wide in the shot. His trap development is a lot more superior than Hadi's. And maybe that's just time in the game. Maybe that's genetics. But overall, this, again, a lot of apples and oranges here, guys. That's why the judging was so hard here. Do you go for the width of Hadi, or as you were? Do you go for the width of Brandon Curry, especially upper body, but lacking in the lower? Or do you go for the more complete, symmetrical, conditioned Hadi Choopan? Let me know down below. And rounding out, I have a couple variations of the rear lat spread from Hadi, just one, but Brandon Curry from prejudging and finals. And here, guys, again, very, very similar to the back double bicep. Are you going to go for the conditioned Hadi Choopan and more balanced, or are you going to go for the top heavy and wider Brandon Curry? Same, but different. Same shot for Hadi, different for Brandon Curry. This shot actually looks very comparable. Hadi's delts look like they're popping a little bit more, but Brandon's traps are popping a little bit more than Hadi's. The legs actually look somewhat comparable, minus the density and separation in Hadi's hamstrings. The calves, I think, are comparable as well. So honestly, guys, in conclusion, I thought that although I understand and I can see why they went with the previous Olympia champ to be second, I think it was a safe bet, as I talked about in the finals. I thought that them picking Brandon for second was a safe decision. But as Hadi Choopan is the two-time people's champ at last year's Olympia and this year's Olympia, I feel like Hadi kind of got overlooked. And that's my opinion. I'd love to hear in the comment sections below what you guys felt about Hadi's placing at this year's Mr. Olympia. Subscribe if you have not. I know that you guys are, a lot of you are new, and I appreciate every single one of you. Merch is going to be coming out in the next month or so stay tuned for that if you're interested. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on the two questions we started with in today's video. But that's it. Thank you for watching another episode on the Bodybuilding News Network. I'm your host, Saunch. Thank you so much for watching. All my links are in the description of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.